Eastern Sky International was at full tilt, lines curling past kiosks. Flight numbers flickering on LED screens. And intercom voices echoing above a sea of rolling suitcases and tired eyes. But Ethan Carter wasn't looking at any of that. He watched for the gaps. The hesitation. The slivers of wrongness that people didn't mean to show. And Rex watched everything else. The German shepherd padded beside him. Head low, tail still, trained to detect explosives, narcotics, blood, and fear, and Ethan trusted his instincts more than any sensor the airport paid millions for. They were halfway past Terminal C's food court when Rex growled. It wasn't loud, not showy, just a low, vibrating hum at the base of his throat, a signal Ethan hadn't heard in weeks. He stopped instantly. "What do you see, boy?" Rex turned his head slightly. Ears up. Eyes locked on a couple sitting quietly near Gate 19. A man and a woman. Nothing outwardly unusual. Mid-30s. Both well-dressed but unremarkable. The woman clutched a bundled baby to her chest, gently rocking in place. The man sat beside her, glancing at the departure screen like any traveler might. Except he didn't look away. Not once. Ethan narrowed his eyes. Rex didn't move, but his growl deepened, eyes fixed on the child. Ethan approached slowly. "Morning, folks," he said, voice casual, badge just visible. "Need a quick word, if that's all right." The man flinched. "Is something wrong?" "Probably not," Ethan lied. "Just routine screening." "You traveling with a child?" "Yes, our daughter," the woman replied too quickly. "She's sleeping." Rex circled once, then sat. His alert signal. Ethan's tone cooled. "May I see her?" The woman hesitated, just for a second. But it was enough. "I'd like to see her," Ethan repeated, firmer, reluctantly. The woman pulled the blanket back. The child, perhaps 2 years old, was unnaturally still. Too still. No stirring, no twitch, no slow wake. Her eyelids didn't flutter, even as the light touched her face. Ethan leaned in, gently pressed 2 fingers to the girl's neck. A pulse, faint, but steady. He looked up, eyes cold now. "She's sedated." The man's expression shattered. We didn't." "On the ground. Both of you." He drew his sidearm and signaled to nearby security. Within seconds, the couple was restrained and the child was being transferred to medical. Ethan knelt beside Rex, who had resumed his position like a statue. "Good work," he murmured. Again, the medical team confirmed it. The girl had been injected with a low-dose anesthetic. Stable, but vulnerable. The syringe was found hidden in a false bottle of baby lotion. The couple, once separated, cracked fast. They weren't parents. They weren't even partners. Just couriers, hired separately. Told to pose as a married couple transporting a sick child to Europe for treatment. All travel, documentation, and lodging arranged by a third party. No names, no photos, just instructions. "I didn't even know she was drugged." The woman sobbed. "I thought she was sleeping. I swear to God." "Who hired you?" Ethan pressed. "We never saw them. Just messages. Encrypted." Paid in crypto. Why risk an unconscious child at airport security? The man broke in. Because there are more coming. We're just one pair. There are others. Ethan leaned back. There it was. This wasn't desperation. This was design. A system. That night, back in his office, Ethan reviewed the footage again. The couple had arrived 2 hours apart. Their bags had false bottoms, each holding clean, unused passports and untraceable phones. The child had been handed off by an unknown third party, obscured under a hat and hoodie, just outside the arrival's entrance. No prints, no visual ID. Whoever was running this knew the system, knew how to move people without setting off alarms. He looked down at Rex, curled on the floor but eyes still sharp. "You saw it first," he said, before anyone else even knew there was something to see. Rex blinked slowly. Ethan leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. He'd seen trafficking before. Drugs, weapons, even people. But this was different. This was clean, polished, clinical, and a child had nearly vanished into it. Without a sound, without a single scream, if not for a growl from a dog who trusted his nose more than the rules. She'd be gone, and no one would have known until it was far too late. The road to the orphanage was long, cracked, and empty, carved through dry hills that had seen more storms than people. Dust clung to the edges of Ethan's windshield like a warning. Rex sat in the passenger seat, ears up, muscles tense. They were far from Eastern Sky Airport now. But the trail hadn't gone cold. It had led here, to a place called Hope Glen Home, a name painted in cheerful letters across a sagging wooden gate. But nothing about the place felt hopeful. The gate creaked open at their approach. An old man shuffled forward to meet them, keys jangling on his belt. "Visitors are rare out here," he said, squinting. "Can I help you?" Ethan flashed a gentle smile. "Just doing a welfare check. Heard your name come up in a missing persons report." The man blinked. "I'm Jonas. I've worked here 20 years. We don't lose children, officer." Ethan nodded. "Mind if I take a look around anyway?" Jonas hesitated, just for a second. But that was enough. "Of course," he said, stepping aside. "The kids are upstairs with the caretaker." Ethan motioned to Rex. "He comes with me." The interior of the orphanage was clean, but too clean. Polished in a way that didn't match its worn-down exterior. Paintings of sunflowers and smiling stick figures lined the hallway walls. The air smelled of antiseptic. A woman in her 60s greeted him at the main stairwell. She wore beige slacks, a loose sweater, and an expression carved from politeness. "I'm Mrs. Keene," she said, her voice honey-sweet. "I manage the home. What's this about again?" "Just protocol," Ethan said. "Routine follow-up." Mrs. Keene smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Of course. Please, look around. We've got nothing to hide." Rex sniffed the air, then turned toward the back hallway. His body stiffened. He took a slow step. Then another. Ethan followed, letting instinct lead. Mrs. Keene's voice drifted behind them. "The children are napping now. We'd prefer not to disturb them." Ethan didn't answer. He was already watching Rex. The dog led him down a narrow service corridor, past the laundry room and a closed storage door. Then he stopped in front of a locked panel painted the same color as the wall. The handle was nearly invisible. Rex growled. Ethan stepped closer. "What's back here?" Jonas, who had quietly followed, cleared his throat. "That's just a utility closet. Old boiler room. Nothing in there." Ethan reached into his jacket, pulled out a multi-tool, and jimmied the lock. The door creaked open. Stairs led downward into darkness. Cold air rose from below. Rex went first. The basement was a long corridor of concrete and humming lights. To the left, a series of closed doors. To the right, thick steel cabinets. Medical equipment. A wheeled cart with IV bags. And on the far wall, a large refrigerated unit. Rex led Ethan to the second room on the left. Inside, rows of small beds. Occupied. Ethan's breath caught in his chest. Children, maybe 20, maybe more, all unconscious, breathing, but shallow, arms strapped loosely to their sides, tubes at their wrists, tags tied to their ankles with dates, blood types, and abbreviations. O, kidney, viable. AB+, heart, pending. A+, liver, cleared. Ethan backed out, rage and nausea fighting for space in his throat. "Jonas," he said, low and dangerous, "open that cabinet." The old man shook. "I just cleaned the halls. I didn't open it." Jonas fumbled with the keys. Unlocked the tall, gray storage unit. Inside were file folders. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Ethan pulled one at random. Donor intake report. Age, 6. Status, unclaimed. Tissue match, high. Attached, lab results. Blood work. Organ assessments. An international transport form marked with an agency logo Ethan didn't recognize. He slammed the door shut. This wasn't an orphanage. It was a warehouse. Upstairs, Mrs. Keene was gone. Ethan swept the floor and found a back office with a trap door in the closet, wide open, leading into the woods. She'd run. He radioed local units and sealed the property, leaving the medical teams to stabilize the children below. Later, back in the main office, Ethan reviewed Keene's logs. Every month, a new intake of unregistered children. No adoption records. No outreach. Just transport. The trail went far beyond her. Ethan leaned against the wall. Exhausted. Rex sat at his feet. Silent. Watching. People saw her as a saint. Ethan murmured, "All these years, and no one knew." Rex tilted his head slightly, then rested his chin on Ethan's boot. That night, sitting in the car under a sky full of unfeeling stars, Ethan opened his laptop and began filing the case report. But what he was really writing was a warning. This wasn't a lone operation. This was a supply chain. And it had just lost one of its darkest outposts. But the network was still breathing. The mansion didn't look like a clinic. Perched on a bluff outside the capital, its sweeping white pillars and manicured hedges suggested a life of charity galas and foreign dignitaries, not underground surgeries. But Ethan Carter knew the truth rarely looked like the movies. Sometimes it wore a white coat and a legacy of awards. Dr. Lawrence Miles, renowned trauma surgeon, published scholar, recipient of the Royal Cross for humanitarian service in conflict zones. Also, according to 3 witnesses and a seized ledger from the orphanage, the man who harvested organs from drugged children with the precision of a man slicing steak. And no one would touch him. Miles was surrounded, politically, legally, socially. His clients were in government. His donations fed half the city's medical infrastructure. The word untouchable didn't even feel dramatic. But Ethan didn't care. When an encrypted tip came in about a scheduled procedure at a private clinic in the hills, one not on any registry, Ethan didn't wait for full authorization. He pulled together a small task force. No press, no red tape, just steel and silence. The raid hit just after midnight. They breached through the rear exit, silenced the alarms, and found the operating room 2 floors below ground. 3 children, 2 prepped for surgery, 1 unconscious on a gurney, a breathing mask still on her face. No monitors, no consent. Dr. Lawrence Miles stood calmly at the operating table, scalpel in hand, gloves bloodied. He didn't resist, didn't argue, just placed the instrument on a tray, removed his gloves, and said, "You're too late to save them all." Ethan wanted to hit him. Instead, he cuffed him and read his rights through clenched teeth. The media went insane. A celebrated doctor arrested for trafficking in human organs. Public outrage boiled over. But behind the headlines, Ethan knew what was happening. Every call he made was intercepted. Every report challenged. Even in custody, Miles was protected. Until he wasn't. 4 days after his arrest, Lawrence Miles was found dead in his holding cell. Suicide. The official report read, "Fractured larynx. Ligature marks. No signs of forced entry." But Ethan had seen those kinds of deaths before, in cases where silence mattered more than justice. Miles didn't take his own life. Someone had shut him up. And whoever it was had reach. Ethan sat alone in the evidence room, reviewing recovered files from the mansion. Most were redacted by internal security teams. Pages blacked out. Drives encrypted beyond recognition. But one folder, mistakenly overlooked, contained a photograph. A girl, maybe 12, sitting in a metal chair under harsh light. She looked scared, half drugged, but not broken. There was something in the eyes. Something fierce. Ethan froze. He stared harder. Brown hair, narrow jaw, small scar on the chin. Same as the one she got falling off her bike the year she turned 8. It couldn't be. It looked like Eliza, his sister, gone for nearly 14 years. Reported missing after school. Never found. No leads. Just a hole in his life that had never stopped bleeding. He brought the photo closer. Hands shaking. Could it be a lookalike? Was it another girl? Or had she been alive this whole time? Trapped in the same pipeline he was now uncovering piece by piece. He reached for the phone. "Get me facial reconstruction," he said, voice hoarse. "Run this image against any archived data on Eliza Carter. I want confirmation. Full match. I need to know." That night, Ethan didn't go home. He sat in the back of the precinct with Rex at his feet and stared at the walls. This wasn't just a case anymore. It never had been. This network, this trade, it didn't just exist in the shadows. It lived there, fed there, and somewhere in those shadows, it had taken her. If that photo was real, then Eliza hadn't been stolen by chance. She'd been selected, catalogued, numbered, just like the other children. He looked down at Rex, who raised his head and stared back with silent resolve. "You ready?" Ethan asked. Rex didn't move. Didn't need to. They both knew the hunt wasn't over. In fact, it had just become personal. The USB arrived in a plain envelope. No return address. No fingerprints. Just a note scrawled in block letters. "She's still alive. He keeps her in the mansion. A friend." Ethan didn't hesitate. He plugged the drive in at the station. Watched the screen flicker to life. A grainy video clip loaded. Security camera footage. Infrared. Dated 3 weeks prior. A young woman curled on a cot in a dark room. Chained at the ankle. Emaciated. Barefoot. But unmistakable. Eliza. No longer 12. Now grown. Scar still on her chin. Still alive. And the location data embedded in the file. The estate of Victor Crane, business mogul. Philanthropist. Investor in global health initiatives. And the man everyone thought was saving lives had been selling them. Victor Crane's estate sprawled across 5 acres of forested hills outside the city. Technically private property. Legally protected. Ethan couldn't wait for a warrant. He couldn't trust the system. Not when Crane had already buried so much under charm and clean suits. He moved that night, just after 2 a.m. With him, a small strike team he trusted with his life, and Rex. The air was sharp, humid with stormfront tension. No movement from the estate. Just quiet light leaking from the windows like the place had nothing to hide. But Ethan knew better. He and Rex took the side approach. Through the tree line, past the marble fountain, around the silent tennis court, straight to the servants' wing where the signal from the USB had triangulated. Rex caught the scent first. A low growl, then a quick pace, nose to the ground. Ethan followed, rifle raised. They reached a locked cellar door. Ethan kicked it in. The hallway was dark, lined with stone and mold. Rex surged forward, tail stiff, breath low. He stopped outside a rusted metal door. Scratched from the inside. Ethan forced it open. And there she was. Eliza flinched at the light. Backing into the corner. Eyes wild. "No. Please. Don't. Eliza." Ethan breathed. She froze. "Liza. It's me. It's Ethan." Her mouth opened. No sound. He stepped forward slowly. Dropped his weapon, pulled the flashlight from his belt and angled it toward his own face. His eyes never left hers. "I found you," he whispered. Tears spilled down her face. She collapsed into his arms. Body trembling. Behind them, Rex stood watch, growling at the dark like it could still hurt them. The team evacuated her under cover of night. Straight to a safe facility. Medics confirmed what Ethan already knew: years of abuse. both physical and psychological, but she was alive, stronger than anyone could have guessed. He sat beside her hospital bed the next morning, hand in hers. "I tried to find you," he said. She didn't speak for a long time. Then finally, "Horse," he told me, "you were dead." 2 days later, Ethan returned to the estate, this time with warrants, cameras, and a full federal team. They found files in Crane's personal office, bank transfers, organ buyer lists, lab reports linked to philanthropic research that had funneled desperate children into a surgical system built for the elite. Hospitals, transport clinics, even blood labs, all under Crane's invisible hand. He hadn't just funded the black market. He'd designed it. Every sick child treated by his organization was screened. Those who could pay got care. Those who couldn't were processed. And Eliza, she was kept alive as leverage, in case the authorities ever came knocking. A warning to others who knew too much. A ghost in his basement. But Crane himself, gone, vanished hours before the raid. Private jet gone dark. Accounts frozen. But a dozen shell companies already rerouting money. He'd known this day would come. He was prepared. Ethan stood in the ruins of Crane's living room, staring at the portrait over the fireplace, Victor shaking hands with world leaders, smiling like a man who'd saved the world twice over. Behind him, Rex growled low. Ethan didn't speak. He didn't need to. This wasn't over. This wasn't just a case. This was personal. For Eliza. For every child who hadn't been found. For every ghost still chained in the dark. It began with a heat signature. A drone sweep over the industrial zone on the city's northern edge picked up movement inside what was supposed to be an abandoned biotech research lab. A private airstrip sat behind it, concealed beneath hangar doors that hadn't opened in years. Until tonight, Victor Crane was preparing to vanish. This was the end of the line. Ethan stood at the front of the tactical convoy. Body armor cinched tight. Pistol holstered. Rifle loaded. Rex sat beside him. Eyes sharp. Low growl humming beneath his breath. He was limping slightly. Still healing from the last mission. But he refused to stay behind. Ethan didn't argue. This was their fight. "Move on my mark," Ethan ordered. "We take Crane alive. No mistakes. Let's shut this monster down." The convoy rolled in silently under the cover of darkness. Splitting around the compound, snipers took positions on the perimeter. The main team breached from the west, while Ethan and Rex advanced through the side maintenance entry. They moved fast, corridor after corridor of cold steel and artificial light. The place stank of chemicals and fear. Inside one chamber, they found surgical tables. In another, cryo units labeled by blood type and organ category. Everything was catalogued, packaged, ready for shipment. "Dear God," one agent whispered behind them. Then the gunfire began. Crane had guards, former private military, well paid and well armed. Bullets sparked off metal, alarms blared, strobe lights washed the hallways in red. Ethan returned fire, ducked behind cover, signaled his unit forward. Rex surged ahead, past the bullets, past the chaos, tracking the scent they both knew by now, Crane's cologne. His breath, his cowardice. They reached the loading bay just as Crane climbed the ramp of his private jet. Flanked by 2 bodyguards, Ethan fired, dropping one. Rex lunged. The second guard turned, aimed, and fired. Rex took the shot. The impact threw him sideways, yelping in pain. But he didn't stop. He launched again, jaws clamping around Crane's arm just as the man reached for the hatch lever. They both crashed to the floor. Ethan reached them in seconds, kicking the pistol from Crane's grasp and dragging him upright. Blood soaked Crane's designer shirt. His wrist was torn, his face contorted between pain and rage. "You don't understand what I've built," he hissed. "I was saving lives, curing diseases. The poor don't matter if their parts save the powerful." Ethan's voice was ice. "You're not a surgeon. You're a butcher with a plane ticket." Crane sneered. "Killing me won't end it. The world needs what I created." "You're not dying," Ethan said, pulling the cuffs tight. "You're going to live through trial after trial. And every child you hurt will get justice." Rex was lying on the ground, breathing heavy, wound deep but not fatal. Ethan knelt beside him, stroking his head. "You did it, partner. You stopped him." Rex thumped his tail once. Weak but proud. 3 months later, Project Hope opened its gates. Built in the countryside, funded by global donations, and staffed by the best trauma and care specialists Ethan could assemble. It wasn't just a shelter. It was a fortress, for healing, for recovery, for dignity. Children rescued from the network now had a place to become more than survivors. They had a home. At the front gate stood a bronze statue of a German shepherd in mid-step. Gaze forward, noble and fierce. Below it, a plaque. Rex, defender, brother, hero. Because justice sometimes walks on 4 legs. Ethan watched as a young girl ran through the courtyard laughing. Another painted butterflies on the wall. Eliza, now recovering and growing stronger, helped coordinate art therapy and outreach. And Rex, scarred but whole, lay peacefully beneath a tree, letting children curl against his side without fear. Ethan smiled, arms crossed, wind brushing through his jacket. The past was still there, still heavy, but so was hope, and for the first time in a long time, it felt like the future was worth chasing.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.